Good morning. TV Toastmasters Advanced Club 9523 is hereby open. We'd like to welcome some guests this morning, all of our guests, all of our television audience, all the guests here in the studio, and our members. At this point in time, we want to go forward with the program, so I'd like to introduce our Toastmaster for today, Carol Kormelink.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, audience.
Good morning.
Those in the studio and our viewing audience at home. A most hearty welcome to our TV Toastmasters Club. It is my task as the Toastmaster to explain the components of the meeting, to let you know what's going to be going on, to introduce each speaker, the general evaluator, and the evaluation team, and to form a bridge between the various parts of the meeting. Steve has been a Toastmaster for 14 years. He is an advanced Toastmaster Gold. He's given more than 30 speeches, 10, 20, 30, 40, close to 50 speeches by now. And he is our current Vice President of Membership. Let us welcome our grammarian for the word of the day, Steve Aaronholtz.
Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and our honored studio guests, as well as our audience. I was looking at the agenda this morning and I saw that I actually have to have a word of the day too. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't have one. I better cook one up quick. This is Tabletopics on the fly. I will share my word for the day with you at the end of my little presentation here. Now, our word for the day. Our word for the day is going to be serendipity, which is a fortuitous discovery, something by chance. It's something that you can't really plan, but by being aware of what's going on, paying attention, you discover something you didn't realize before. Often this is an element that occurs in scientific research. You have your protocol, you have plans, you're looking for specific things to test your hypothesis, but there may be some serendipity that goes along with that. It can also be used to describe a term. You can have a serendipitous discovery. That's the word I'm going to look for today. I hope you can remember it. Serendipity. Madam Toastmaster?
Thank you, Steve, for coming up with a serendipitous word on the spur of the moment. That was a happy happenstance. Our next item of business is the Tabletopics Master. Our Tabletopics Master today is the club treasurer, and he has tickled our imagination with a treasury of unusual themes. I can't wait to hear what he has planned for today, and let us give a hearty welcome to our topic master for today, and you do have 1 to 2 minutes to answer the reply, and he may give you more instructions up here. Rick Davis, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Thank you, Carol. You remember in high school when you had a book that you had to write a book report on, and of course there were more important things. You had to go to the football game or whatever, and so you didn't get the book read, but you still had to do the book report. So today what we're going to do is we're going to do impromptu book reports. I'm going to present a book, and you're going to tell us why this is the greatest book in the world. Now remember, Tabletopics, you don't have to tell the truth. You don't even have to be anywhere close to the truth. But the fun thing is, when you get done, we should either believe that you have read the book, or we should be able to tell that you haven't read the book. So I have a stack of books here, and we're going to go through here, and I'm just going to see what we can come up with. That some of these you may have actually read. In that case, you're that much farther ahead of the rest of the group. So, okay, here we go. Let's pick one here. How about Candy Freak? Carol, would you come up here and tell us about Candy Freak? This is an interesting book by Steve Allman.
Mr. Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, our welcome guests in the studio and at home. Candy Freak, serendipitous. I happen to be a candy freak. Even when I was trying to be eating good food, I was at a luncheon. There was cut up fresh pineapple and a dish of candy-coated almonds. Now, which do you think I chose? I knew that I should choose the fresh pineapple, but I sat there and ate most of that dish of the candy-coated almonds. So, Candy Freak, it says Almonds Joy, and I do happen to like that. That's one of my favorite candy bars, is the Almonds Joy. So, I thoroughly enjoyed this. It's a journey through the chocolate underbelly of America, and I suggest if you have any passion for candy that you read Candy Freak by Steve Almond. Mr.
Thank you, Carol. Okay, the question is, with a show of hands, how many of you think she read the book? Okay. Didn't get away with that one. The next one I'd like to, or the next person that's read a book is Carlos. He read Laugh and Get Rich. Would you come up here and tell us about Laugh and Get Rich?
Thank you, Mr. David, Master of the Day. Thank you. Laugh and Get Rich. Well, I can't say that I ever wanted to get rich. But I do want to laugh. Consequently, I do recommend this book. It has been highly valued. It has been highly valued by the public, and I also incurred on that evaluation. Laughing is hygienical. It helps you to weather the blows that life obviously has to give us. So I recommend this. Because the author meant not just get rich materialistically, but get rich spiritually. So I do recommend this book because it has been very helpful to me. I have found it that instead of taking Valium, instead of taking another antidepressive, I tend to laugh at the blows of life that we all happen to take without necessarily wanting to. But just keep on laughing, and the book will help you to keep on laughing and weather the blows. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carlos. And how many think that he read the book?
It's obvious. Yeah.
He read the book, yeah. I had a request from the audience. Gary would like to tell us about Water for Elephants, which has been on the bestseller list for a long time. But Gary, would you tell us about your experience reading this book?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopic Master, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and those of you at home. Water for Elephants. It's a great story about Jumbo O'Brien, the Irish elephant. He suffered from Irish Alzheimer's, which meant he could forget everything but a grudge. And the problem was, this was a series of anecdotes about Jumbo's grudges that he remembered, the one things that he couldn't forget. And one of my favorite anecdotes was the time that Jumbo O'Brien, the elephant, was going down to the water hole with one of his buddies, another elephant. And they got to the water hole, and as they stuck their trunks down into the water for elephants, a small little turtle climbed up out of the bed of the pool right next to Jumbo's trunk. Jumbo's eyes got bigger than baseballs, and he reared up in the air, and he came down with all the weight he could muster, and he smashed that little turtle into smithereens. His buddy was outraged. He says, "Jumbo, how could you? That little itty-bitty turtle, you're a million times bigger than him. How could you kill that poor little turtle?" And Jumbo explained, says, "You don't know this, but 10 years ago on this exact date at this exact water hole, that exact turtle came crawling up out of the water and bit me on the trunk." And his buddy says, "Well, Jumbo, how could you possibly know that same turtle from 10 years ago? How?" He said, "Simple. I have turtle recall."
Now, how many think that Gary actually read the book? All right. All right. Who Moved My Cheese? It's been around for a number of years. A lot of people have read it. I think that Jennifer Williams read it. Jennifer, would you come up here and tell us about this book?
Talk about a stroke of serendipity. Mr. Tabletopics Master, fellow Toastmasters and guests, this is a wonderful book. Who Moved My Cheese is an amusing way to take a serious look at organizational development and behaviors. In here, they use mice and the way that they act out according to change that occurs in the organization, and how they will either very productively or dysfunctionally deal with those changes. And I found it to be most stimulating and a really good read, a real page turner. It was hard to put it down. One of the things that I learned is that you absolutely cannot judge a book by its cover, because it's not about cheese at all, but it's about the concept of all of us humans, or most of us anyway, having that tendency to not want to accept change, and we get into denial and we hold on and dig our heels in no matter what the circumstances to the contrary may say. So I would highly recommend Spencer Johnson, MD, book on organizational change and how we as individuals need to be aware that the only thing constant is change. Fellow Toastmasters.
How many think she read the book? All right. Yeah, she didn't tell us the ending. Joe, you read Tuesdays with Maury. That's the one you're supposed to be reporting on. So would you come up here and tell us about Tuesdays with Maury?
Tuesdays with Maury. Actually, this isn't what it looks to be. This was actually intended to be a catalog for the Tuesday morning store. They just messed up the words. They got the Tuesday right, but they messed up the other part. So I'll tell you what is in the contents. In the Tuesday morning store, first of all, it's a store that serendipitously, I would recommend visiting it occasionally, just as you do with Toastmasters. First of all, it shares the same initials, TM. Toastmasters, Tuesday morning, they go together. Myself, I go to Tuesday morning stores to look for miscellaneous serendipitous stuff that they stock. Mostly in orange. Those that know me, I do most things in orange. So you look around and find all kinds of household items in various shapes, colors, clearance items, and so on. So I recommend shopping in any fashion. This is just one aid to your shopping techniques. In this case, you happen to have a catalog. But take advantage of the unlimited opportunities for serendipitous acquisition of stuff, knowledge, or fun through Tuesday morning and Toastmasters.
So how many think that Joe read the book? No. I think we're probably down to about our last one. Steve, would you tell us about Paris Trout? This is a national bestseller, award-winning book. Would you go and tell us about the book that you read, Paris Trout?
Thank you, Mr. Tabletopics Master. Paris Trout, a masterpiece, complex and breathtaking. Let me tell you, contemporary American fiction, this is a fisherman's or a fisherwoman's dream. They go down to Paris, Kentucky. There is a fishing hole down there, and the trout are just humongous. They had to use a boat winch to haul in one of the trout down there. Those trout don't feed on gnats and mosquitoes. Oh, heavens, don't mess with that. These are corn-fed trout. They eat out of a trough. And the fishermen down there usually are restricted to one fish per fishing trip. The problem is they have to leave their boats at the dock because they take the fish home on their boat trailer. It's very entertaining. I would recommend, if you want something light to read, something to lift your spirits and get some of those endorphins from laughter, read Paris Trout by Pete Dexter. Tabletopics Master.
Thank you, Steve. Who thinks that Steve read the book? All right, yeah. Well, I would encourage you to take one of these books home and actually read it and not try to fake your way through a book report. Madam Tabletopics Master.
Thank you, Rick, for that wonderful Tabletopics session. Our first speaker today, Anita Barron, is giving her second speech from the Basic Competent Communicator Manual. The objectives of Anita's speech are to organize a speech by taking the time to put her ideas together in an orderly manner. A strong opening, a body of supporting material with smooth transitions between thoughts, and a strong conclusion. Her time is 5 to 7 minutes. She is going to show the audience how their individual efforts can make the difference with her speech titled Community. She, since May of 2006, has been the director of a nonprofit named Pet Alliance, whose mission is to promote spay-neuter of cats and dogs in our community. Let us welcome Anita Barron, Community, Anita Barron.
Thank you very much, and I am excited to be here. Community. I would like to share a story about 4 people who exist in our every community, named Everybody, Somebody, Anybody, and Nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about this because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody wouldn't do it. It ended up that everybody blamed somebody when nobody did what anybody could have done. What is the important job that our community has failed to accomplish? Becoming a no-kill community for our homeless cats and dogs. Maybe you're asking yourself, how can anybody create a no-kill community? Everybody knows that nobody can overcome the overpopulation of animals, and that a county shelter is the place that anybody can drop off their unwanted animals. And somebody will adopt the homeless animals, or if needed, somebody will kill them. Today I am here to give you real-life examples in your and my community of how a no-kill community begins. Here's the old thinking. Overpopulation of cats and dogs cannot be overcome. Feels like it's raining cats and dogs. We all know of somebody with a litter of kittens or puppies that are free to a good home. It's very serendipitous that this time of year, everybody has a kitten for sale or free for a home. What's the answer? Spay and neuter your cats and dogs. It's been proven in communities across the nation that in communities that have aggressive spay-neuter, they have reduced dramatically their euthanasia rates in their counties. We are very fortunate in Cincinnati that we have, since April of 2007, a high-volume, low-cost spay-neuter clinic, which is called UCAN, and that's ucanclinic.org if anybody was looking for it. Anybody can spay-neuter their cat for $30, and anybody can spay-neuter their dog for $55. Here's a Cincinnati example in our backyard. Last year, I met a widow who was raising a young child and taking care of her elderly father, and she had a huge cat and kitten overpopulation problem in her yard. She said that she lives in a rural area and the word seemed to be out. If anybody wants to dump their unwanted cat anywhere, this lady loves cats. She had not actively sought out these homeless, unwanted cats. The everybody's assumed she was the somebody that would take care of their problem. She said she saved up for a year, 1 year, a full year, to raise enough money to spay-neuter a female cat, which was over $100 at her local vet. Needless to say, the overpopulation in her household became like 25 cats and kittens in a very short time. With the help, with a little serendipity of everybody coming together at the right time, a high-volume, low-cost mobile spay-neuter clinic, a local no-kill rescue taking the kittens that were not wanted, and financial contributions from a local no-kill shelter and a very generous individual in the community, a community of somebodies solved this kind lady's cat overpopulation and allowed her cats, her adult cats, whom she adored at her home, to stay at her home and out of the county shelter. Another old thinking, just too many animals, not enough homes. 2005 statistics said in 2 of our largest county shelters revealed that 8 out of 10 cats that came through the shelter doors died. That meant that there were only 2 that they were able to find a new home. Well, I didn't bring any kittens or cats, but I have little pictures here. Little cute kittens, beautiful white cat. Okay, but this is about 10. Well, we can only save 2, so we'll say, since this is a picture of 2, we'll save these 2. Well, they die. Okay. Well, that's not acceptable for any of us. So what's the answer? Somebody says, no more killing. It starts with a decision, an act of will that says no more. How can we do that? Foster care homes for the homeless cats and dogs that are too many in the shelters. Pet retention programs, helping current guardians overcome behavioral, medical, or environmental obstacles to keeping their pets. Creative fundraising and educational programs. Here's a Cincinnati example in our backyard. www.foreclosurecats.org. It's a collaborative effort between some small local rescue groups that say no more killing. On May 5th, 2007, when somebody, through a serendipitous bike ride, discovered the horrible reality that half of the over 60 cats that were left behind in an abandoned foreclosed house had been trapped inside since mid-April. Inside and outside the house, there were cats everywhere. Some of them dead, some of them so sick they couldn't get off the floor. They were all more or less suffering upper respiratory illnesses. Some of them had been blinded because their eyes had caked over so bad through the illnesses because of lack of medical treatment. Pet Alliance, which focuses on spay-neuter and a handful of small animal rescues, knew all too well that the future would be what the future would be for the cats and kittens. Death for 2 reasons. 1, the county animal shelter does not have enough cat cages available. And 2, the cats were sick and the shelter would not take the effort and the money to recuperate them and then hope to find a home for them. Everybody in these groups contributed what expertise they had that most anybody also has and said no more killing, at least for those 60 plus cats. And they're just as cute as they can be. These are some of the kitties right here. Somebody reached out to the media, and somebody who's a reporter for Business Week on the internet wrote a story. And then almost everybody heard about these foreclosure cats ordeal and need for the financial funds in foster homes and adopters. Kind-hearted somebodies opened their homes to the foster animals. Generous somebodies throughout the nation, California, New Jersey, Texas, Florida, opened up their wallets to Cincinnati, Ohio, and donated funds to help the small rescues afford the vet bills. Somebody has utilized their professional talent and connections to gather her artist colleagues throughout the country to paint portraits and have a fundraiser to sell for the foreclosure cats. Everybody in the community of donators, fosters, and adopters have voiced loud and clear, we as a nation of communities do not and will not continue to accept the old way of thinking. Let's revise this story about 4 people who are in our community named everybody and somebody and anybody and nobody. Are you of the old thinking or the new thinking? An everybody, somebody, anybody, or nobody?
Thank you, Anita, for that very enlightening speech. It's Sarah. Our next speaker today is David Johnson, and he has traveled over 500 miles from Rochester, New York to be with us today. He arrived at 4 o'clock this morning. David will be giving speech number 8 from the Basic Communication Manual. His objectives are: select visual aids that are appropriate for your message and the audience, and use those visual aids correctly with ease and confidence. David will answer the question, how did I get here again? How did I get here again? David Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, how did I get here again? I'm quite sure each one of us ask ourselves that question over and over again. Have you ever had an issue that you thought you got clear, and for some reason, I find myself right back where I thought I had worked from? Today, what I'm going to do with you is look through over why we continually go over and over certain courses in life until we get to the core of things. What is the core? The core is your feelings and your emotions. Do you know that I continually go through things until I get to the root of it? See, I may have problems, I may have anger issues, but until I find out what made me angry, it's not the point that I got angry, it's the point that I don't know what was touched to make me angry. We see a lot of that in especially in the inner city. Young men violently fighting against each other. They have not gotten to the core. Some of them deal with issues of single-parent homes. Some of them deal with the issues of peer pressure. We need to get to the core of what it is they're really going through. So for the next few moments, what I'm hoping to is for each one of us to begin to identify some of the feelings that we're going through. And as we identify those feelings, we'll find that there's a particular emotion connected to that feeling. And once we know the feeling and the emotion, we can change our behavior. What I have here are 3 chairs here, and these chairs are going to represent our lives. This one right here is a comfortable chair. How many of us are pretty comfortable in life? Things are going just hunky-dory. Okay? But as issues happen in life, some of us have children. How many of you have teenage children? You know what it's like raising the teenage children? Sometimes we have to come out of that comfortable chair, and they get us to the point where we sit here, and now we got a little bit of support, but it's kind of uncomfortable sitting here. How many of us have significant others? If you're anything like me and my significant other, the best thing in the world is that I go back to Rochester every couple of days, because if I don't, we're constantly at each other. We are both strong-minded, strong-willed. Clash, but we get a chance to get away. We have to come out of that zone we get here, but I'm going to show you another. But see, you thought I was going to sit on this one, but this is where sometimes I end. I was not meant to be like that, but I did not identify that feeling or that emotion that brought me to this point where you see the behavior come from me, and many times I have to go back and apologize. Many times I have to call on the way home and say, you know what, babe, I was really immature. That has come from going through the process of identifying what I'm going through and then working through and developing the skills in order to move on. Now, let's each one of us, in the presence of my voice, in the presence of the TV, let's begin to identify something that we're going through. Pick a feeling, pick a circumstance that you go through, something you may be going through right now, and we're going to work through that. I'm going to take mine, for instance. Raising a teenage stepdaughter can be challenging at times. Through the grace of God, I've never been told, you're not my father. Through the grace of God, I've never been disrespected. But you know what I do? I hear from my wife little incidents that are going on. And because we have a commute marriage, I hear little things that I can't be a part of. And you know what? One thing, and I always find myself like this, because family is very valuable to me. And in that value, I'm not able to be at times that provider. When my wife calls and says, you know what? Somebody broke in the garage. You know how that makes me feel? I can't be there. I'm here. my feelings. And I have to identify what feeling am I going through. There's anger that I go through. There's at times depression because there's nothing I can do about it. But there are times when my wife calls me and says, you know what? She just left the 7th grade and went to the 8th grade. Man, even though that is a good report, I feel like this because I'm not there to celebrate with her. Pick your battle today. And we're going to go through this because sometimes we have to lift this up. Sometimes we have to deal and develop the skills that these things do not continually keep us down. I can move from here with my daughter. I can move from here with my wife. I can move from here with my job. See, there are many issues that go on in life, and they constantly build up and build up and build up, and before you know it, you're kind of worn down. And so I get to a point that I'm here because now I'm developing skills. See, I know how to call my wife now. I know how to call my daughter and say, how you doing? What's going on? And we talk about some of the issues of being a teenage in a Christian home with the values and the morals that are out in the street, and she's conflicting with those two things. And because I've developed those skills, because I'm where I'm at today, here mentally, in my heart, see, that's where the change comes from. For me, the change came when I developed the skills to be able to not allow things to just knock against me. See, today, I see myself as a glass window, and the issues of life are constantly banging against me. Do I allow those issues to shatter me? Or do I sit back in my comfortable chair? Because I've got the skills to realize that this too shall pass. And as this pass, where do I go from here? To the day I no longer like these chairs here. I like sitting here. If we develop the skills that we need in order to allow life to be life and we deal with it on life's terms, I guarantee you we'll always be in the comfort chair. Madam Toastmaster.
Our third speaker today, Laura Lee Gayfield. When I saw her this morning, I thought, she always dresses so neat for being on television, and then I realized why she is dressed the way she is. She is going to be speaking today from the Advanced Storytelling Manual, The Folktale, and she is going to tell a folktale that is entertaining and enjoyable. She has earned her competent communicator and her competent leader achievements and is currently the Area 54 governor. She is going to tell us the legend of Hina of Hilo. Laura Lee Gayfield.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, audience, guests, TV land. The story I am sharing with you today is a story from the lands of ancient Hawaii. Hina of Hilo is a goddess all throughout Polynesia. But when the stories are told, her homeland is always the ancient lands of Hawaii. One of the things that's very valuable to Hawaii about her legends is that it connects Hawaii to the other islands that are distant thousands of miles across the beautiful Pacific Ocean. In Hawaii is the Wailuku River. The Wailuku River is a river that has beauty that is peculiar and weird. It goes for miles and miles with a series of waterfalls and rushing rapids. It follows an ancient lava flow, and sometimes it forces itself under bridges of lava and forms up boiling pots. It's along these rivers of the Wailuku that Hilo, made her home. At the very mouth of the river, underneath the largest waterfall, Hina made her home in a cave, concealed from the world by the silvery veil of the water, and she would be lulled to sleep with the water falling into the deep pool below. This is where she went about her task, making tapa cloth, and prepared her food. Her home was an ideal place for making of tapa cloth. There were small, graceful mamake trees and also coarser wauke trees to use in the cloth. They would take the branches off the tree and then soak the branches in water. And they'd soak them a long time until the bark easily came off of the wood. Then they would take the bark and they would scrape off the top layer and be left with the pliable, fibrous material inside. They would roll the balls up of the fibrous material and let them soak. Making the tapa cloth took a lot of time, and it took a lot of effort. But the days were short. Hina would rise as soon as the morning skies were reddened and would hasten to spread out her tapa that she had made the day before. She would spread it out on a heavy tapa board, and she would pound it with her mallets, and it would go into a pulp. And then she'd take another small soaking wet bundle, lay it out on the board, and pound it, and layer after layer after layer, and pounding after pounding after pounding. Eventually the pulp gave way and left just the woven fibrous cloth beneath, tapa, soft as silk. Some of the islands in the southern Pacific say that Hilo Hina's tapas were legendary, so legendary that they put her in the skies, making her soft, glorious clouds, the fine tapa cloth. When she laid the tapa cloth out to dry in the heavens, she placed stones along the edges so that the fierce winds of the heavens wouldn't blow the tapa away. When the tapa was dry, she would pick up the stones and cast them aside, creating the thunder in the clouds. And when the tapa was ready to be moved, she would roll it up, and the sun would glisten, making lightning, and the lightning would jump from sheet to sheet. As beautiful as her tapas were, and as soft as silk as they were, Hina grieved while she toiled. The days were short. She hardly had enough time to get her tapas dry when she laid them out after pounding them into these thin sheets. Chants and incantations are what she used to try to convince the sun to aid her so that she could allow her tapas to dry and get them turned over so they may dry evenly to her fine quality standards. She tried and tried to enlist the sun's help, but day after day, the sun would rise out of the blue waters of the earth, rush rapidly across the sky, and then plunge into the deep, dark waters on the other side of the island. So she called to her son Maui, Kiki, Ki'i, for help. Maui had many supernatural powers. He could take the shape of birds or insects. He could call to the winds to do his will, and he could take one single stride and make it miles and miles long in one step. Maui, seeing how beautiful his mother's tapas could be when the sun cooperated, felt sorry for her, so he strode over to the mountain where the sun rose over the day during the day. Haleakala. At the Haleakala mountain, he waited for the sun to rise. And while he waited, he took fibrous trees and vines and made ropes to use as lassos. Finally, the sun started to rise, and as it started to rise, the light shone from the sun through a gap on the eastern side of the crater. Maui took his ropes and used them as lassos, lassoing the sun over and over again, catching the sun's legs, its rays of light. The sun was trying to furiously get away and rush rapidly across the sky. In this heaven and earth struggle, Maui held tight and held fast. Finally, the sun was weary, wounded, and limping on its broken legs. The sun agreed that Maui had won the battle and that he would go slowly forevermore. Serendipitously, Hilo Hina realized what her son had done, and finally the days were long enough. She was full of joy and cheerfully went about her work making the tapa cloth. Finally, the days were long enough that she could pound her tapa cloth out and set it out for the sun to dry and turn it so that it would dry evenly. The comfort of the sun and the cooling winds filled Hilo Hina's life with continuous joy and warmth. And may you sometimes have the opportunity to visit the lands of Hilo Hina and her son Maui and enjoy the same comforting sunshine and cooling winds, and renew your joy and beauty in life. Thank you.
Just stay right here. Just stay right here. Normally, you wrap up the meeting, you tell everyone what a good job they did, and I thank everyone for being here. And because I return it back to Gordon, I will go ahead and return back to our president.
Okay, thank you. I believe I have some notes here real quick. I didn't expect that. Couple things I had written down today that I noticed. One is we had 4 very interesting speakers. I think that is really good. And overall, though, the thing that impressed me about this meeting was the group itself. I mean, we have a lot of really interesting people here. At this time, what I would like to do is ask each of our guests to give comments of any sort that they would like to give on our meeting today. And I really think we probably, hopefully that's okay with all the guests, I'd really like to start with Dr. Imelda Castronata Imaniker. I hope I said that right.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Fellow Toastmasters, I'm very happy to be here with TV Toastmasters. I'm the president of Berka Toastmasters, and I'd like to take this opportunity to invite you to our meetings. We do have meetings every first and third Thursdays of the month. Starting August, we'll start it at 6 o'clock in the evening. We usually run it from 6 to 7:15. I'm very impressed with this meeting. Of course, it's very much different from the regular club meetings because of the TV component, but I'm also glad I was here because I'm also learning a lot from what you're doing in here, being a first-time officer at the club. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, it doesn't really matter what order we do this in. I'm just looking at names, but how about we have Linda Ketchum just give her comments?
Thank you, Mr. President and fellow Toastmasters. I am the past president of Springdale Communicators and the incoming secretary of Springdale Communicators. We have just achieved President's Distinguished for the 4th year in a row. And for the first time achieved all of our goals, and I'm very happy, very, very excited that we were able to do that. I am very interested in becoming a part of this club. As part of my career path, would like to see my church services, I am a minister, become televised at some point. So I want to learn as much as I can about speaking for TV as well as the ins and outs of what it takes to do a broadcast like this. So I look forward to learning from you and becoming part of this club. Thank you.
Thank you. We will go right to David Johnson. If he has any comments that he'd like to express to us, that'd be fine. And of course, we need to follow up with Beverly Johnson.
Just like to say that, Carol, behind every good man is a good woman. Behind every good group is a woman. This is an excellent group. I've really enjoyed it. It was well worth the travel, and looking forward to doing it again.
And I'd just like to add that I see the passion, the information, the diversity of the group, and it was just a wonderful experience. Communication, which links our world, I think that you are just hitting those targets, and I really enjoyed my time here.
At this time, we will have Dr. Jennifer Williams come up.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, I am privileged to be here today. I am not as altruistic as I should be, and I like to get something out of things when I do something or participate. And from the opening of the meeting, I got a lot that I am going to shamelessly incorporate into what we do, starting with the ideas for the Vice President of PR, Public Relations and Marketing. I'm privileged to hold that position in our club, and I wrote down some very actionable ideas. I am very grateful for the introduction and announcement of my program, Out of the Crossfire. It is a fledgling. We're just barely, not quite a year old yet, and we need a lot of support, and a lot of people don't know we exist. But I'm working with true life and death situations, and the public needs to know, and we need support. And finally, I really appreciate the rigor of this club in terms of the feedback. It's done with love and caring, but it's very useful, actionable feedback, and I crave that. So thank you all very much for enriching my performance and my experience with Toastmasters.
Thank you. Appreciate it. At this time, we'll have Carlos Hidalgo, if he'd like to make some comments.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
And thank every one of you for the opportunity of letting me or allowing me to be with you and to share the ideas. I am really impressed by the fact that how collaborating everyone is, how critical they are, and at the same time in such a manner that doesn't discourage the individual. It makes him attempt to improve his or her skills. So again, thank you for this great opportunity, and I hope to come back. And again, you have improved my technical skills as well as my spiritual skills. Thank you.
Thank you.
President, thank you.
I just want to say one more thing. It's Toastmasters International. You can get us on the internet. It's not that hard to look up. And the overriding message that I want to send is we're not professional speakers here. Some of us actually are, but most of us are not. We're looking for that help. We're looking for the experience to improve our ability to stand, at least I am, to stand in front of a group and talk at all. Just to blurt out words for me is like a big success. So that's the reason here. I don't want people, especially out in the television audience, watching any of us and thinking, oh, I don't want to go there because these people are already polished. You probably can see we're not, a lot of us. So we want you to come in and work with us. At that point, I believe, is there anything else? Have I got all the guests? Have I missed anything?
Next month's meeting is the contest, and we need people to sign up, and I don't